Let's talk about talk. Let's go deep. We all have something to share. No share with Dr. Dave.
Let's go ahead and share my screen. Screen number 2. Okay.
That's working.
It's working.
So welcome, Dave.
Well, welcome. Hey, oh wow, I went to the summary page already. Huh? Like
it's a backwards talk tonight.
It's a backwards talk. We're gonna go from the end to to the front. Well, hey, it's good being back here. Like Paul said, Agile SoCal has been like one of the favorite places for me to present, to learn, to grow, have community, and I was just telling Paul, I certainly miss some of those days where we used to come in and have pizza and Pepsi and the great conversation. So thanks again for having me. And so tonight I am going to spend a little time talking about, do you deliver value? And the conversation is going to be in the context of you, the individual, you, the team, you, the organization. When I talk about, do you deliver value? And so and this topic is really driven from a book that I recently released called Deliver Value: Happy Contributing People, Satisfied Customers, and Thriving Business. But the main title is Deliver Value. So the first thing I want to jump off to, and I'm going to give you guys work. Paul knows that when I present, I'm always like getting to grow, make sure that everyone is involved and engaged. Is I'm going to ask you a question about, share what comes to mind when you or your team delivered value. And so I am going to go into Mentee here, and what I would like you to do is enter this code 88288052 and go to mentee.com. And when you think about delivering value, I just want you to figure out what does that mean to you or your team. And I am going to give you about a minute and a half, because I know that everyone here is like, I'm making assumptions, right? That everyone here is familiar with Mentee, but maybe I'll give you 2 minutes, and then we'll start from there. And then after that, we're going to use Mentee for about 3 or 4 different activities, just to get you engaged. So I'll just wait to see what shows up. And I gave you more than one option. Sometimes most people just give you a single word. I'll give maybe 2 minutes to do that. Yeah. I mean, those are really important stuff. When you just drop some value and, the pride of the team walking around, or you as you're providing value back to your customers, there's a certain amount of confidence that's there, and a certain amount of, the satisfied customers who really get to feel this. Nice. I love that income. Yeah, for sure. I mean, as a consultant, when we're out there, delivering value for our customers, certainly income is important. Right? All good stuff. All right. And I think we may have like hit, where, it's a few more people still adding. Good. Adding some stuff. Yeah. And the good thing is I wanted to make sure that we have everyone have an opportunity to add, several different topics or different words that may have come up. All right. So I'm going to jump back and say thank you for sharing that. And in terms of what comes to mind, the thing is, when I was writing the book Deliver Value, I went out and had a bunch of conversations with a bunch of industry experts, right? And first, one of the experts that I started off with was Merriam-Webster, and just really trying to understand what's the definition of value, what they call DOVE. And so Webster tells us, it's a fair return or equivalent in goods, services, and money for something exchanged. So we gave some quality. We got some value back in that way, some pride, right? Which is all good stuff. But I also wanted to talk to Diana Larson. She wrote about retrospectives, and she looks at it in a context as Diana only would, right? She said, hey, let's think about value from a customer business and strategic position. And went off and also talked to this guy named Marty, who runs a code place out in Portland. And he said it's a positive exchange, positive emotion experience when they're thinking about definition of value. And also when I talked to Dave West, who is the CEO for scrum.org. And he says, you may ask, why is the person buying that thing in the first place? What value are they getting from that? Right? And from his perspective is asking that question, but also even going out and talking to Howard Sublett, who was, former CEO of Scrum Alliance. He used to be, he used to present in Agile SoCal. If Paul remember when he was part of Big Visible, he used to come through there. So, just going out and having conversations with people that about what their thoughts are about what value is and the definition and what it brings. So he looks at it from the context of the relationship between the amount someone pays and what they receive and what they get in exchange. So that's their view of what value is. But in terms of the context that I bring, I created a definition of what value is. I said value is a measurable outcome that can be realized and shared. And I frame it in that way because, we could measure it. How much money did we receive? How much value did we get in terms of quality, in terms of how much revenue that's produced, how much satisfaction, right? We can measure all of those things. So it's measurable. We think of value that it's really outcome focused. It's about being very customer centric. And what is the customer really getting out of what we're providing as a team, as an individual, as an organization? But also, is it realizable? Because sometimes we set off to get things done and we can't get it done because it's not realistic. It's too big, right? And so the beauty of agility is that it gets us into that mindset of doing smaller increments or slices of value of work that we could really realize what that is, measure it, and make sure that it's something that's beautiful for our customers and even for ourselves. And then the other aspect is, hey, is it shareable? We live in a world where we use social media and different tools, but can we have people go forward and begin to share how we're bringing value back to them as a customer, back to the organization, even for the teams? So really simplistic, like the definition of value is something that we could apply to just about any industry or any type of work that we're doing when we think about the definition of value. And so there's a really importance of, why do we care? Why do we care about, delivering value? When we get to that place where value is, in the concept of it's being realizable and shareable, we begin to shift things a bit with how our customers bring us back, to do work, how they keep us, and in our engagements, how we stay employed, why they keep coming back and buying stuff from us, right? So every time we deliver value, right, and something that they could measure, and they become these loyal fans, and they're sharing it out with others, we have these loyal customers and we're satisfied. It also applies back to the people in the organization. As we're building stuff, we're building good software, we're building good products, I mean, we may even be building, things that that pertains to compliance, right, in any enterprise. That it really feels good when we deliver that value back to the organization, and it also makes the organization viable and able to thrive in its process, right? So there's really good stuff that we look at when we start to produce value in this process. So there's benefits. There's really benefits for when we deliver value, and I look at it in three different contexts as well. Right. And who does it really benefits? Right. We talk about happy contributing people. Right. That's a really important aspect. But also when we look at satisfied customers and thriving business. So those are three different, groups of people who really get value out of, who benefit when we provide value to them. Right. So I would like to just pause there and maybe just hear from you. What are some experiences that you've had when it comes to delivering value for happy contributing people? These are team members, right? Or they could actually be, people that you're partnering with, or satisfied customers. We just provided some great value in terms of products or services to our customers, and they're like, yay. And then the business is thriving because of that, right? We have more revenue, a better reputation. There are also the wonderful things that take place. So I would like to hear back from you. You could get off of your mic, come on camera, and just maybe share, what was it like in terms of delivering value, back to your customer or a happy contributing person on your team or even your organization.
I can go if nobody's willing to help. This is Shalab. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, can hear you.
Yeah. So thanks everybody and thanks Dave for doing what you're doing. That's amazing. That's awesome. Love the concept of value. And when I first started on this journey of SAFE, Scaled Agile, and the concept of value was first introduced to our organization, it was amazing when we actually ran the train and we did the PI planning. And at the end of the first PI planning, we said, okay, what did we achieve out of this? The business was completely surprised by the definition of what value is and what we have been doing for so long, because there was so much difference between perception of what we are going to get versus what we actually got, versus doing in Scaled Agile when we actually got what we asked for. And every time we were, so just to make the long story short, it was just an aha moment. Wow, yes, that we got little, but we got what we wanted.
No, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, so, you set out, to deliver some value. You made a commitment and you achieved that value that you had in mind. So that's really excellent. Let's get one or two more who has something to share in terms of, what it was like for delivering value, either for happy contributing people on your team, satisfied customers, and also thriving business.
Share an example, and fun, Devin, and great to be able to meet everybody again in one time. I tend to find that these are all related. It's sort of a close loop. I look at it from the perspective of delivering value to the customer. When they're happy, it tends to make the business happy, which tends to make the other people on the team happy. When we get the different customers firsthand, what kind of value did we achieve, what we meant to achieve? Do they perceive that value? Do they realize the value that we're trying to drive them with? And it sort of motivates everyone to continue hitting more value with more people. It's like a game user.
Well, great. Thanks, Evan. So, yeah, I mean, when we bring value back to, people in our team and our organization, to our customers, it also helps our business to continue to thrive, especially, as we're in this wonderful world, as we call a VUCA world, right? That we have this volatile, uncertain, right, complex and ambiguous world that we live in, that we're working through. So delivering value is really critical. So let's dig in a little bit more into happy contributing people, because Well, when I think about happy contributing people, and I'm borrowing some concept from Daniel Pink and others, when we think about happy contributing people, those people who are part of your team, your partners, who are outside of your organization, common attributes that you find is like they have some purpose, right? There's some purpose that they do have. We believe that they're, what we've researched and found is that people are compassionate about each other and how they're working. They're working on mastering their capabilities, and the fun thing is that they're self-organizing. So if you're a leader in your organization, you don't have to spend a lot of energy managing those individuals, right? Because they have the capabilities, and they're working really hard to get good at how they do their jobs. They have a purpose. And there's a certain level of compassion that's being shared between each member on the team. So this is what we talk about, happy contributing people. And so I'll ask another question, right? And we'll do this in Mentee again. Let me get over here and get over to to my next slide. Come on. Okay, here you go. Same thing, right? And so we're going to use the same code. I try to just keep it simple so people, once they bring Mentee up, you could use the same code, or maybe don't even leave your browser, but just go to the next question that would have showed up. So what comes to mind? About happy contributing people as you guys are delivering value, right? Yeah, people are engaged, right? And that's part of that self-organizing, mastering capabilities. That's it, taking part. They're invested in what's going on. Let's hear some more of what's happening. And as you can see, we're working as a team. These two ladies are from Israel. They were visiting. We're working at a client, and we had a big planning event. So everyone had really fun headgears to wear in a point in time. So in that experience. Yeah, love the fact that it's an interesting thing. When you have happy people that you're working with, whether we're remote or even working together, right, in a co-located space, even though we have been apart for some time now. The concept of fun and laughter, the ability for us to really be in that great emotional space, gives us an opportunity to deliver value a lot faster, a lot easier, a lot less friction that's taken place in the process as well. Right? There's a great amount of productivity that's there when we have happy contributing people, right? They're contributing, to the success of what's happening. So it's really energizing as we're going through that process as well. It's just like you being here today for our presentation, that I could tell there's some level of happiness happening with you, because you're also contributing and participating in this journey and this learning with me. So did anything surprise anyone in terms of what was contributed in terms of the response to this question? Any words that you said, oh, well, I didn't even think that would show up here? Anyone wants to chime in if that was an experience that you had? Okay, thank you so much. If not, and then so I'm going to move on to, how do we also create a space where we could think about bringing forward happy contributing people, right, and really enabling that type of experience for members of our teams. I'm going to talk to you about this concept called Ubuntu, right? And if you're a developer and you work in the tech space, you're probably thinking Apache. No, we're not talking about that. Right. I know Paul just smiled because, he's familiar with the Ubuntu, OS or environment that runs on Linux boxes. We're talking about this concept from South Africa, actually. And it has this whole philosophy that I am because we are, right? So we're working as a whole team, as a whole organization. And we begin to work on the concept that we see everyone that's part of our environment. I see you, right? I value you. I welcome you, right? And that's the principle of Ubuntu, of how we allow members of our organization, no matter, whatever, wherever they are in their life, that we create this space, this welcoming space that allow them to be seen and heard, which is really super important. Right. And so if we're in that mindset to help build happy contributing people, then there's a few values that we may hold on to, that we start to talk about patience and kindness. And I use that a lot, patience and kindness, which translate really into love. Right? That we're patient, we're kind with each other as we're going through our journey. We talk a lot about psychological safety in the agile space, but also in the coaching space. So people feel safe because they're heard, they're seen, they're valued, they're welcomed. Happy contributing people are resilient people. All right, that gives us an opportunity for us to build like really cool stuff. And I don't know about you, but when I've worked with high performing resilient teams and we're doing things, we're having a great time together, all throughout the experience. Even when sometimes there's friction, we're still having a great time and we're still generating, amazing value for the organization, but also this partnership, right? Which is really important through this journey. So the principle of Ubuntu is I am because we are. Right, we're working as we would say, one team, one dream, is kind of that mindset that we bring to the table, and so that happens. That's enabled through the type of leadership that you may have within your organization, whether they're assigned leaders or emergent leaders. And the distinction is that assigned leaders are those people who get promoted to be a VP or manager. The emergent leaders are those individuals who are like seeing opportunities, jumping in and helping to make a difference for their team members and make a difference in the organization. So there's this principle that we'll talk about, having a generative leadership values. And this is something that I borrowed from Ron Westrom's. He has this principle, this idea about, having this high performance based organization, which is very resilient. And he started out with 6 principles. He talks about things of very, high cooperation that's taking place in your environment. And I just translate to that to be focus on we. Right. So that's part of the Ubuntu principle. Let's focus on we as we're building stuff. He goes on to talk about messengers or enablers. So I said, we trust everyone in the team to achieve their goals. Right. And that's part of our self-organization that we're looking at. He talks about risks are shared. And so as a team, we win and lose. One team, one dream. We're all winning and losing at the same together as a team. He goes on for point 4 that bridging is enabled. And so we are having this partnership and this conversation just to tell me more. Let's learn more from each other in this journey. A lot of people like number 5 because they said failures lead to inquiry. And the thing is, in the agile space, we like to always, we have this saying that so we fail fast. I said learn fast, but it's like asking that question: what did we learn from this past experience. He adds novelty is implemented, and my translation is that we're going to run this experiment and evaluate the hypothesis. So, one person was sharing that they added this small amount of value in their journey, for their customers. So that hypothesis was validated, and the customer goes, so yay, at the end of a few months, they got some goodness that they wanted. I added abundance mindset because I think instead of just having a growth mindset, I want us to have an abundance mindset, that we have more than enough capacity to share and partner with others within the organization, even when we're working with people outside that I call partners outside of our organization, that we still have that abundance mindset. So good generative leadership helps to create an environment where we could have happy contributing people. So I ask you this question, when have you, experienced any of these values from a generative leader? And if you haven't, it's okay. Some of us have never experienced this, but I know I have in my journey. So you could come on camera, share with your voice. When have you had some of these experiences? Any of these 7 experiences that I've listed here, or values? Yeah, I know there's a lot on the screen, but I could have broken this into smaller bits, but I figure one screen, one bite full, give you a chance to see how they all connect with each other.
Okay, I can say something.
Yes, sir.
Maybe it might just shut up again. And maybe it might be the opposite of what you're asking for, but I will still say. So what I have actually witnessed is, you talked about something. You talked about these leadership, where the titles SVP, VP, EVPs, and all those things. And you talked about emergent leaders who are in that mindset. So what I have seen is the senior leadership with all these titles, and also when they see that emergent leaders, there is sense of insecurity with them. So it's very interesting to highlight that information, or to kind of confront them and bring these values to them. And it takes a while for them to even understand what are they being asked of, because they feel they are the leaders and they know everything and they should be coaching everybody, rather than somebody telling them, look, here is how the generative leadership works, and here is how you need to grow your team, and those emergent leaders, you can learn from them too. So anyway, I just wanted to give a little bit different perspective.
Well, that's an important perspective, right? Is that if you have in your back pocket these 7 or 8 items that you could make visible to those leaders, it will be helpful to them, right? To see that this is the way, that this is an opportunity that they could help, especially the assigned leaders, how that they could shift their behaviors. Because oftentimes, as we get on this journey, we think that because they're assigned leaders, they know everything, but that's not the case. We have to help them along, especially if you're in a coaching position, like a Scrum Master, and you were talking about SAFe, like an RTE, release train engineer. If you're one of those roles, that you could definitely, help them to come along. It's not just meet them where they are, but bring them along on the journey as well. And thanks for that. That was great and insightful. Anything else anyone would like to add?
I can chime in here. Oh, sorry.
Go for it.
I have been a Scrum Master, and I don't have experience with that sort of leadership. I have more experience with the inclusive team. And I would say, like, with failures, I would necessarily correlate it with a failure. I would just say more like in our demos, we would have experiences where it was more of a learning experience, where as a team, if we couldn't collaborate, in a past incident, there was one team member who just didn't want to collaborate throughout our conversations, throughout our like sprints or stand-ups and stuff. And then at the end, he chimed in. So it was just a learning experience, I guess. I wouldn't necessarily say it as a failure, but I don't know.
But it gave you an opportunity to ask, what did we learn?
Exactly.
And so that's the opposite side of it too. So I wanted to, give additional translation. Thank you for sharing that. So, anyone else have anything to add before we move forward? All right, the other pattern. So we talked about definition of value, and we got to hear from several leaders on their definition. I provided a definition of value. You also provided your context of value. And now we just talk about happy, contributing people. The next context, as we're looking at the organization and around delivering value, is satisfied customers. Satisfied customers is just super important. And when we have, satisfied customers, we have this thing where we're satisfying their unmet needs, things that they just really need to get done. When you think about, I didn't think Amazon was going to be that super important to me during this whole COVID period, but they satisfied an unmet need of being able to deliver stuff, to my house. So, all of a sudden now I'm a fanboy of Amazon, and, some people want to punch me in the head for that, but I shouldn't say that, but that also helps to build brand loyalty, right? And that I'm going to be loyal to that brand because they have provided a value that I needed at that time. And the third point is this customer lifetime value. So this is just simply a concept that I am willing to pay in advance. Sometimes, you get into one of these subscription models and they said pay for 12 months. There's certain things I would drop, money for 12 months. That's my CLV. And the more of those that you have, oftentimes you have a more profitable company, when people are really investing in that way, as opposed to just paying, month by month or sporadically. You have all that money that's in your pocket, and you could do lots of things when we talk about the present value of money, when you get into the finance aspect of it. So, you get a great subscription model, and that's why people do it, right? You have this subscription model that they could get your money a whole year in advance. And I happen to be one of those people that sometimes pay into certain things that make sense for me. Right. So went back to the industry professionals again, to ask them about what do you talk about when we talk about satisfied customers? What does that really mean? Right. And so when I asked Diana Larson, she goes, they get closer to know the customer. When she's the way she thinks about it is that if we know our customers better, we should be able to deliver a certain amount of value, which would make them more satisfied, and that's just her context about that. Marty Nelson, is like, yeah, the customers are getting a value in a good way. Dave West is saying people are wowed by the value received. And the same thing with Howard Sublett. He says when they receive value in excess of the amount they paid, or the effort they provided, right? The effort that they had to put in to get that value. So, this is their context of what satisfied customers are, right? And so between these four different individuals, they touch lots of people throughout the world in terms of understanding, the type of customers that they have been able to satisfy, or their organization have been able to provide a level of satisfaction for. So I'm going to ask you again to partner with me and answer the same question. When you think of a portrait of a satisfied customer, what does that look like to you? And we'll go back into Menti, and I'll go to the next slide. Same code, and just click over to the next question. And so let's talk about a portrait of a satisfied customers. A customer that's giving you the big love, right? And like, yay, Paul just helped me and our team build some really amazing code, and they're coming back and they're pairing, they're doing test-driven development, so on and so forth, right? I mean, those are, you could think of the portrait of those satisfied customers, or just individuals that you've worked with that are going like, yay, the value that you're providing is so important to us. So would love to hear what word comes to mind in this context. Yeah. Love having a cheerleader as a customer. Huh? Oh, trust. Oof. Yeah, they come back. This is we're talking about the customer lifetime value before. You know, they're showing up again. Just buy our stuff. Yeah, just more partnership in the process as well. Yeah, you know, sometimes I think about when I used to live in SoCal, and you know, we would go by and watch people out there waiting for products and things like that to be released, and you see the long line and people are sleeping overnight and things like that. You know, those are like really, really intense, you know, type of customers who are willing to do what's necessary to get that value or that perceived value from whatever products or service that you're offering. And, you know, Apple comes to mind as one of those products, or either it's a form of some gaming, you know, aspects that they want. You think of Comic-Con, and I was in Hawaii once, and I'm like, look at this huge line. I'm like, why are all these people dressed up? What are they doing out there? You know, satisfied customers who are willing to go to extra mile, you know, to be able to really get that value that's being provided back to the organization. So excellent. Thank you so much for doing that, for sharing your thoughts about that. So let's keep trucking. So one thing, there's a tool that I like to use, and it's called an empathy map, right? And so this tool is one way how we could start to gather more information from our customers, but we could actually even use it for our teams, right? This is a tool that we could use for our teams, even to find out, you know, if they're happy contributing people or not, right? And so the empathy map talks about how can we be more empathetic and put their needs ahead of our needs, right, as a team. And so there's essentially 7 main points, and I hope this is clear enough. So, you know, we always start with one, and says to the top left, it says, who are we empathizing with? And then we go on, and there's a series of questions as like, what do they need to do? And so we may be asking about what jobs do they want or need to get done, and what decisions do they need to make? And number 3, we talk about what do they see with this empathy map? You know, what do they see in the marketplace? What's going on in their immediate environment that they really care about? You know, what are they saying? What are they saying about your products? What are they saying about the value that they're receiving? And so these are things that they're sharing back with you, and you're having this conversation with these individuals that you're having empathy with or for. You know, what do they do? You know, what do they do today? What other options do they have besides using your products or services? And then what do they hear? What are other people saying? Right. So it's taking a full holistic view of that individual, you know, in terms of what they do, see, say, and hear. And then also, what do they think and feel in terms of pains and gains? What are the things that they have fears about, or frustrations or anxieties with their products? And then what are the gains? You know, what are their wants, hope, needs, and dreams? And so this is a tool, the empathy map, that I love to use. Use it in a retrospective. Sometimes when I'm doing some product management type work, it's something that I may go out and work with other product managers and have conversation with our customers, so we could start to get a deeper insight about how to bring about, you know, satisfied customers in the process, right? Because oftentimes it's not just about, the tangible effect of a product or service that you provide. Sometimes there are things that we may need to learn a little bit more. And this is one tool that we could leverage. If you don't have this as part of your toolkit, it's something that you may want to just put in your pocket in terms of, let me get an empathy map and have this conversation with a team. And the richness that comes out of this, it's been a game changer for me in terms of the conversation and understanding that I've had. Has anyone used the empathy map before? And if you have, just tell me about your experience.
Yeah, I used it, Dave. And one thing that I can just say is, one, it requires time and commitment. So one of the things, especially when you're dealing with product management people, the product people, they really want things get done fast, and they sometimes don't see the value in investing their valued time in doing something like that. So just two things. One is having the organization be aware of the value that it brings in. So there is kind of receptiveness and collaboration from the top. And at the same time, the product managers need to be a little bit patient with them, because once they see the value, then they start investing the time in it. Otherwise, it becomes frustrating to see them that you want to help them and they don't want to help themselves. So
yeah, it's like anything, any change. It takes a little bit of energy on our behalf to bring about influence such that they're willing to adopt this. Thank you so much. So the third lens that we think about delivering value and how it's beneficial, it's about the thriving business. Thriving business is just really critical, right? This is how we make money, how we stay employed, how we have all the fun things. And, the three things that I think about is that, that we're practicing business agility. And when I use that term, business agility, I'm going to frame this in a lean context, that we're trying to optimize the whole organization. Because oftentimes we sub-optimize, and I'm leaning into some lean principles here, that we sub-optimize, and the only thing we care about is IT, right? And that's where we talk about agility is from an IT context. When I'm thinking about practicing business agility is across the enterprise. So the leadership is involved in this, product management, architecture, right? Sales, if the marketing, everyone is in this mindset of being able to deliver value in small increments and get into the habits of doing some MVPs as opposed to big bang stuff, right? So that's what I'm talking about when I bring up business agility. But it's also about continuing to promote happy contributing people, so that they're thriving in their process, they're providing great value back to the teams, to themselves, to the organization. And then satisfied customers or fans, right? One of the things that someone put out there, that they're out there being cheerleaders. Well, this is what makes a thriving business, right? You have these things that are in play, and we're able to create the level of value. Now, still, again, I'm still asking these individuals, and I'm harassing them, right? Tell me about what does thriving business mean to you? And Diana, of course, she said faster to market, acquire new customers, and retain customers that we have. Marty Nelson, he said have market momentum, a good work environment, and use its resources wisely. So he runs a code lab up in Portland. So he has a different perspective than Diana would have. And same thing with Dave West, right? Run scrum.org. He said energy created between three elements of customer, team, and market, and how it's sublet. It's like know why they exist and who they're there to serve, the organization itself. So we have these different viewpoints of what thriving business really means, and thriving business in the context of that this value, that's being delivered So the interesting thing around that is that I am going to also bring in still another lean principle that we talk about: organize people around value. And for those, this is with this whole concept of value streams, right? And so this is one of the context as we're building teams and we're trying to figure out where do we actually provide value in the enterprise. One way to do this is to map this out in your organization. And I know this takes time and it takes energy, but it's nothing like really understanding how money is made and how customers are satisfied and who's involved in the whole process, right? And so this is just an example that I snagged from maybe this is Scale Agile Framework. They had an image that I just borrowed from them that I could look at the value stream from the time there's a need by the customer all the way until they've repaid that loan. I have a full-on view: what systems are involved, what people are involved, where are the customers, what's the touch point for the customer. So when I think of a thriving business, we have a full understanding of who's involved in the context of revenue. And so I picked this one because we have two different views. This is the operational view, the business operations, but there's a second value stream that's involved that I didn't depict here, which is the actual development value stream. Because there's a value stream for the development organization that's building the software that allows us to be able to to originate a loan and all the way to taking payments through the process, right? So there's the design, build, test, release, value stream that has developers in there that I didn't depict here. But when we think about this, the reason we're doing this is that we want to figure out how do we improve flow, right? Back to a lean mindset. Flow is really important. Less friction, we can get things through the system a lot faster. I remember, and the reason I picked this too is that I remember we're working for, one of the big banks, and understanding, this whole picture, the life of a loan, was really important. Before it used to take, when we first started building before our system, it used to take us 2 weeks to process a loan. 2 or 3 years later into the process, it would take us less than 8 hours, less than 2 hours sometimes to get that through. So understanding the value stream was really important, but understanding where all the frictions were and how we make this faster was really important. So building adaptive teams, when I use the word adaptive, I'm talking about agile, lean, agile teams, so we can deliver value a lot faster. How do we get better in continual improvement? And this whole obsession about our customers is really important. So to me, this is a very important concept when you're looking at this holistically for your organization and as a team, about working with value streams. Any questions if you haven't worked with value streams before, anything that you're curious about in this context when I bring up value streams? If not, then we're going to do one more question for me. And I'll ask you we'll go back into Mentee, and what comes to mind about thriving business? And that's a very important aspect for us. Using the same code, when you think of a thriving business, what does that really mean to you? Yeah, right out the gate, profitable, for sure. Yes, sir. Having some good buzz. Yeah, happy customers, happy employees. Yeah. All important, important things. Yeah, it's nothing like having flow, when there's a challenge that you as a customer, have to engage with a company, or that they have the ability to get things resolved in a short amount of time, right? I mean, or you sign up like me for a subscription for a year, and halfway through you go like, I don't want this anymore, and they're willing to refund half of your money back. To me, those are great signs of thriving business that also has flow happening. And I know for me as a customer, I'll be happy to share that back with others in the process. And I mean, and so it's, attracting talent in the great context of the great resignation, right? Attracting talent is really important, because it's hard for people have options now, and if you work in the technology space, probably a lot easier to get a gig anywhere in the world than it was 3 years ago, 4 years ago, right? So those are all great examples of thriving businesses that we all could lean into, right? Any comments, anything you would like to add about your experience with a thriving business before I move on? If there's an experience that you had that you want to share, that even lean into any of these words, feel free to come on camera and share that experience with us. This is how we learn and grow. Okay. So with that, we're almost at the end. I'm just being mindful of time. Just to summarize that, what we discussed, in the time that we've had, that when I think of value is measurable, right? It's a measurable outcome that can be realized and shared. I was at the Agile Alliance conference in 2018, 2019, and I was, walking around writing stuff on the board, and I came up with this definition of value, right? That it's a measurable outcome that can be realized and shared. And we're like, wow, that's pretty clever, but it's a very academic view, because I'm trying to see how this could apply to anything. When we talk about value, that I could measure it, it's customer centric, I could realize it, and yay, I could share it, right? We think about happy contributing people, that, for healthy organization to thrive, it's foundational to have happy contributing people. You when you think of Management 3.0, they talk about managing for happiness, right? And I'm thinking like, yeah, happy contributing people, they're not just happy, but they're contributing to everything that's taken place. And knowing that we could meet the unmet needs of our customer, creating that level of customer obsession is really critical for us. And in the process, even though I say thriving business enables happy contributing people and satisfied customer, the same applies, that if you have happy contributing people and satisfied customer, you'll have a thriving business as well. So it works both ways, right, in that journey. And so I want to ask, are there anything that you are curious about today's learning? That means you guys did such an amazing job in participating and sharing knowledge with each other, that it's good. And I love that. So I wanted to tell you about, the many books that I've written. The latest is The Innovation Catalyst, Leading with Empathy. So I've written about 6 different books that I have out there on Amazon. I also have a little website called Dr. Dave Duca. And it was funny, I was at the book fair in the Tucson Festival of Books a few months ago, and this woman from Africa, she came up and she said, I need to learn about the dukkha. What do you know about a dukkha? And so a dukkha is kind of like in many countries, it's a little store that you extend beyond your home, right? So you have a home where your family live, and all of a sudden, you open it and you're selling different things. So that's where the concept of dukkha comes from. So, if you want to learn more about what I was talking about is deliver value, right? It was really a lot of conversation in here, a lot of interviews and conversation with Daniel Larson and, Dave West and also Howard Sublett about what are these concepts about. And also, there's a fictional conversation happening, a fictional story that really spawned this book about this woman leading, technology efforts. So opportunities to grab these on Amazon. And if you really, what's been going on in our world with just the challenges that we're dealing with, it's belonging and healing. It's just, how do we bring that into our organization to make things better for us to thrive? So, and with that, that's the end. And I think I've done it within the time allotted by Paul.
Exactly, perfectly on time. Thank you, Dr. Dave.
Thank you.
Everybody join me in thanking Dave. I am going to hit stop on the recording, but we won't stop the meeting just yet. For the folks that may have been too shy to.
Let's talk about talk. Let's go deep. We all have something to share. No share with Dr. Dave.